So Bridget is a 22-year-old writer and emerging community organizer. She's known by many for her silent protest in the Parliament of Canada as a page in the Senate. When shortly after the Harper's majority government was formed, she disrupted the throne speech with the Stop Harper sign. She's written for TIE, the Media Co-op, Council of Canadians, the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives, as well as poetry and plays, which she's performed at fringe festivals as well as TEDx. She's currently organizing for social change with the Canadian Youth Climate Coalition, the CYCC, Occupy, Deoccupy, and Labour and community groups. Coming from the suburbs of Winnipeg, Bridget got her first sense of the vast inequality while volunteering with her big sister at a community centre in the downtown inner city, home to widespread poverty, and is involved in activism ever since. So if all of you put your hands together and welcome our special guest here today, Brigette DePape.
To start, I'm going to ask if everyone wants to get up and join me in saying a chant. So when I say stop, you say Harper. Stop! Harper! Stop! Harper! Stop! Harper! Woo! That's awesome. Thank you so much for having me here today. It is really wonderful to feel amongst family, and I am really inspired by the work that the Council of Canadians is doing. After the action in the Senate, it was challenging at first, and the Council of Canadians was one of the very first groups who supported it. And that meant so much to me. And ever since, I have been really inspired to learn about the work that Council is doing, especially around CETA and around the tar sands after coming from Fort McMurray and seeing the devastation of the tar sands, of the Indigenous communities who are dying of cancer, and it going against what they want for their communities. So I am really inspired by the work you're doing, and I really, really hope that more people will continue to join this movement. I started when I was very young to be interested in issues of social justice, especially here in Winnipeg growing up. I come from the suburbs, and so I got a sense of the inequality when I was volunteering with my sister Noelle at EarCom. And it's really great to be back at home in Winnipeg and to sort of see it with different eyes and to see things like Occupy happening, which when I was younger I could have never even dreamed of. And to see a different sense of what power is and what getting involved means, and seeing that it is not just politicians who have power, but it is people. And it's amazing to see that happening in my community from where I'm from. So today I am so happy to have the chance to speak with you. It really is an honor. And I have been traveling a lot around Canada ever since doing the action. And I've been learning so much from people, from the work they're doing on the ground. And I'm really excited to share with you some of the things that I have been learning. You know, I am very new to this movement, and I'm extremely happy to be a part of it and to grow with others and to learn with others. So to start, I'd like to talk a little bit about the moment we're in, this very moment, what is going on, and some of the huge challenges we're facing. Then talking a little bit about people power that's going on, the incredible moment we're in right now, the sense of power that is being reclaimed across the world, and how we are part of that, and how we can continue to make that grow for our vision. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about my personal story, why I took the action in the Senate, how it felt, and what it's been like since. And then about people power and about reclaiming our power, overcoming fear, and gaining a sense of agency. And really the intergenerational movement and how important that is, and the myth of youth apathy, and what I've seen and learned from other youth who are not apathetic, but who are deeply engaged in their communities and are working for positive change, and how we can work together and support each other. So the moment that we're in, we have seen incredible mobilizations across the world, from the Arab Spring, where we saw people come together to overthrow a dictator, all the way to Occupy Wall Street, where the 99% where people came together against the 1%, against greed, and to see how that has come to our communities and has brought so many new people out. It really shows us that a lot of people have this deep concern, know that our society is headed in the wrong direction. They're concerned, and that gave them a place to come and to organize and to publicly voice their concerns. And we've been seeing this increasing trend of capitalism and neoliberalism and colonialism for so many years. And this has really been a historic shift in power dynamics, in people waking up, and in reclaiming the power for the people. So it's an incredible moment to be active and to be doing community organizing. And we see that power right here in Canada. You know, when I took the action in the Senate, I thought, imagine a Canadian Spring. What would that look like? And it's amazing to see youth in Quebec who are creating a Maple Spring, and to have seen Occupy and how that has happened in our communities. And it's been really cool to be back here and to learn about the history of Winnipeg, which has this incredible radical history, and to remember and learn about the 1919 general strike. And it really made me think about how we need a general strike. We need a massive movement to confront this government that we are facing right now. And it's amazing what the Quebec students are doing. They're fighting a fight for all of us, for public education, for our vision, for our values. And how can we create that same kind of people power across Canada? What would a 2019 general strike look like? We need to start organizing now to make these kinds of massive actions possible. And it's so inspiring to meet people who are organizing right now in their communities, and we need to continue to do this and to bring others in. As we see, there is incredible people power, but we see that people still are not free, that there are people who are without water, without clean water, people in Fort McMurray, Fort Mackay, with the increasing expansion of the tar sands. We see people who are being imprisoned, youth, people of color, marginalized people, when there are alternatives, but the government is choosing to be tough on crime and really criminalizing the most marginalized in our society. And we see them spending billions of dollars on fighter jets and on the military when we need to be moving in exactly the opposite direction. We believe in peace and values of equality and caring and sharing, but our government is choosing to be violent and to be greedy. But we know that the majority of people in Canada do not support this government. As we saw, only 3/4 of people voted for this government. That means that we have people on our side. Our task is to get mobilized and to get organized. When I went to Ottawa from Winnipeg, I realized that I sort of had a change in heart, and I went to Ottawa because I wanted to make change in my community and broadly, and I thought that I could do that by becoming a politician. And so I decided to become part of the Senate Page program. And while I was there, I saw how politicians who I thought were making change, positive change, were actually the ones who were undermining and attacking women's rights, Indigenous rights, workers' rights. And I realized then that I had a choice. I could continue to sit and watch and give senators glasses of water and stand, you know, at the back of the room in this Senate Page costume. Or I could do something. But to be honest, for a long time, I didn't know that I had a choice. I thought I had to obey. I thought this was the only way. And part of the work that people are doing here is really important because it shows people that there is another way. It doesn't have to be doing nothing or trusting in political parties you don't actually believe in. There is a third way of people power and of reclaiming your power. And it was through a process of meeting people who are involved in movements. You know, I went to the G20 and I saw people like Maud Barlow speak, and she spoke to me, and it really inspired me. And to see people from all different communities coming together for the G20 to oppose capitalist greed who are giving handouts to banks, and to reclaim power for the people. And to go to Bolivia and to see people who were mobilizing to stop privatization in their communities, to see that people power. And to see the Arab Spring was incredibly inspiring. And so that made me realize that there was a third way, and it sort of planted that idea in my head. And so as I am a Senate Page, I realize now that I have a choice. I do not have to continue to obey a system that is unjust and a government that is unjust. And so I had this idea to do something, to do an action, when the climate change bill was rejected in the Senate. And it would mean, already it was a really weak bill, but that would mean future generations are threatened. The survival of the species is threatened. The hundreds of thousands of people all over the world who are already dying of climate change, given the environmental injustices and environmental racism. It's majority of people of color, and the majority of this destruction is being caused by people who are white. So there is that aspect of environmental racism. And to see that, and as that climate change bill was rejected, to know the implications. So we decided we had to do something. And so there was a few other pages who agreed and who decided, okay, we need to act, we need to do something. And so we had a meeting in the bathroom, and we were going to take action. And we decided, what are we going to do? Maybe we should shout something. Maybe we should put tar sands water in the senators' cups. And decided against that, bad idea. And we decided, okay, you know, this is not a good idea. We're going to get in too much trouble. But then there was still that sentiment that something had to be done. And then when Harper got his majority government, knowing what was to come, even worse than what we had already seen, that really just made me realize that I had to do something. And it was really working with others who helped me to make that happen. It was not never is, the act of an individual. I had the idea, and then I told 2 of my roommates, and they were extremely excited and supportive, and we were planning the action in my room, making a poster together and writing the press release together and thinking about the messages that we wanted to convey. And so it was really together that we created the action. And luckily, a lot of them also had experience in movements and were able to help and guide this process. And so it was at that point then, after planning this, a few days before the throne speech, then going back alone in the Senate. And that was when it was extremely scary. And while I knew that I needed to take action for others and with others, because our struggles and liberation is bound together, I felt so scared. And to be honest, I had felt very scared before that as well, around speaking out against the government or speaking out in general. And there is a real culture of fear a lot of the time, not to speak out and to obey. And I was very scared because I was scared I was going to lose my job, how to pay the rent. At the same time, I do come from a privileged family and upbringing, so the risks involved for different people are very different, and it's important to acknowledge that. And I was scared because I was scared of what my family would say and what my friends would say, and I was also afraid of arrests. We had gone to see a lawyer a few days before and asked, okay, if we do this action, what are going to be the charges? And they said, well, most likely, you'll get a trespassing ticket. You may get fined about $100. They said worst case scenario would be frightening the Queen, which is a 20-year sentence in jail. So that was the worst case scenario, with the Governor General representing the Queen. So all of these fears were in my head. And I was there, and just to take you to the moment, I was there and I'm standing against the wall and I'm wearing this ridiculous costume, and I am faced with a choice. And for a second, I just decided, I was like, no, I'm just not going to do it. It's just, I'll be fine. I don't want to do it. It's, I was just scared. I was really scared. And then I thought about it, and I had this gut feeling that I had to do it. And I thought about, and I felt more so, the people who are impacted by this Harper government, the people who are impacted by the tar sands, the people who are being criminalized, women, workers. And that is really what motivated me and gave me strength when I felt those people with me. And so yeah, that is when I did the action to stop Harper. And it was amazing. It was an amazing feeling. It was amazing, and I hope that everyone gets to feel this. And afterwards, to see people, to meet people who gave me big hugs, and to see Stop Harper shirts, and to really feel a sense of dissent and unity and common vision with these people who I hadn't met before. I almost felt like I was getting into this progressive family that now I feel totally a part of. And it's really, really cool to feel that unity and connection and meet so many people who are organizing. And to hear some people who said they felt discouraged after the Harper majority, and to feel, to hear that some of them had organized, rallies against the crime bill who hadn't organized before. That was amazing. And I think that there are so many ways that we can keep mobilizing. So ever since the action in the Senate, I have been extremely privileged and honored to meet with so many young people across Canada and with people of all walks of life and ages and see what's going on. And I've realized that civil disobedience plays an extremely important part of our movement. And for a very long time, I thought that power operated from the top down, from power holders, from politicians and CEOs, and they decide our future, they decide our fate, and that's it. And I realized, and I've been learning from others, that no, power operates from the bottom up, and those people who have power in our society, that power is dependent on our obedience. And as soon as we revoke our obedience from these systems and from these governments that we do not agree with, then we regain our power. And it's amazing to see that happening in Canada and across the world. For a long time, I guess I was sort of trying to figure out how to best try to make a difference and how to really be effective in making change. And for a very long time, I felt a very large burden of guilt, especially as I was learning about privilege and, you know, as a white woman, as a settler woman, to know what to do about this. You know, in a racist and patriarchal society, what to do about this. And something that someone had told me that really hit home and that really, I think, is an important lesson is to use privilege to stop systems of oppression and oppressive policies so that no one is oppressed and no one is left behind. And so I think that there are so many ways that we can use and in some instances give up privileges in the way that so many others have done for us in the past so that we have the benefits that we do. And I'm sure many of you have done for us and for the new generation. And just to thank you for that. And to learn about some of the history of where we are today, to learn about the 1919 general strike and the risks that people took for others and for workers and for the broader movement, and to hear about things like the abortion caravan for women's rights and Indigenous communities who are organizing in their territories to stop logging, to stop mining, like in Barrier Lake or like the Chicolton in BC. And there is so much that we can learn from these communities of resistance who are organizing for the vision that they believe in and that we believe in. One thing I'd really like to touch upon is this issue of youth and apathy. And I find it really is a myth that youth are apathetic. And what I found by talking with other young people is that it's not that young people don't care. It's that a lot of the time young people don't see that they can make a difference or believe that what they're going to do can make a difference. And I think that has a lot to do with the systems that and the institutions that we have that are all in the interests of the elite class. And they are not in the interests of the people a lot of the time. And so there is this sense that people do not have agency over policies and over what our government is doing. So I think really the key with youth apathy and this myth is really that it's not that young people don't care, it's that they don't feel a sense of agency, and that there are so many ways that we can make sure that young people do feel that sense of agency, to create those spaces for young people to come together and to feel empowered, and to help with things like trainings, to give them the tools that they need to get mobilized, and to organize different events, to bring youth in and to educate them, and to get them mobilized, and so that we can learn from older generations. I also think it's extremely important that youth be supported and youth have the ability to also lead and to present their visions and their bold visions and the need to support them when they do. There has been such amazing activism going on this year, and to give you a sense of some of the things that I've seen, one of the great things I've seen has been around fracking and shale gas in Quebec. We saw an intergenerational movement there that actually achieved a moratorium on fracking through a campaign of peaceful direct action. I think that has a lot of really important lessons for us in our challenges in our communities. All the way to, for example, Canadian Youth Climate Coalition, which is something that I've been involved in, acting in terms of civil disobedience at the United Nations, when we saw Minister Kent saying that we'd abandon Kyoto, and taking an action to stand up against the government and to revoke our consent when we didn't agree with these plans for our Earth and our future. And to see some of the work that young people are doing around anti-criminalization here in Winnipeg, and the importance of that, especially when we have an NDP government who did not stand up to the Harper government on the crime bill. These young people, and people of all walks of life and all ages, took action, and they staged an occupation in the minister's office. Incredibly inspiring to see this work happening. So there is a real sense that there is this great movement and great activism going on here in Canada. And there is so much that we can do and need to do to support each other and support our struggles, because it is only in working together that we will see the change that we need to see. I think that one thing that's really important is also a sense of intergenerational dialogue, to be talking to each other, to be organizing together, to be collaborating together, because that's when we really see real shifts and real transformations. It's incredible to see how Council was working with Occupy and different youth-led movements, has been supporting the climate justice movement. Really inspiring to see this kind of intergenerational learning happening. There's a few ideas that I just wanted to share from this Thinking Outside the Ballot Box, which is an essay that Council sponsored around taking action and around finding courage. So these are some closing words to think about what is possible here in Winnipeg and here in Canada, and to think about broad visions and bold visions, because a lot of the fear is also around imagining what is possible and putting forward bold visions, different visions. It's scary to talk about things like a general strike, though we need it, you know, we really, really need it. And so I think it's important to have these bold visions and to share them together, because it's through this that we make these things possible. If we don't imagine it, it's never going to happen. But if we start imagining it and then organizing towards it, it can become real. So I used to be afraid to question and to challenge and to dream and to experiment, but no longer. I'm beginning to discover the power of dreaming seriously about a better Canada and working with others to create it. I once shared in the misconception that Harper has been given free rein to do as he pleases. But now I realize that he hasn't. All Canadians have a hold on the reins too, and we can help steer our country on a better course. We are united through the commons, through water, democracy, the economy, health, and our needs. And hope for Canada over the next 4 years and beyond lies not with government, but with the rest of us, organizing together for a country based on our own voices, values, and vision.